A German-based Gambian journalist, Nima Jadama, receives first Gambian African Women in Europe award. Over 300 people have been injured as Israel police storm Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. And Senegalese state-owned carrier Air Senegal plans to extend flights to Washington, D.C. in September. These and more coming on The World Today. Do stay with us. Good evening, viewers. This is The World Today newscast here on Africa TV with me, Sohna Tunkara, and now to our news in detail. African Women in Europe has delivered awards to 50 men and women for their achievements despite the COVID-19 pandemic. The 2021 AWE Awards serve platform to celebrate and honor the talents, achievements, and positive impact of African women and youth in Europe. Now, Gambian-based journalist in Germany, Nima Jadama, received the award for taking risks and breaking the ground to better up the African economy through her program. More of that in this report.
Since 2012, the annual AWE celebrations of awards has recognized women who had significantly brought impact on the economy and their communities. This year, 50 African women and men in Europe received the AWE Award for supporting entrepreneurship, employment, education, and health. German-based Gambian journalist and social facility manager Nima Jadama highlighted some of her activities in Europe that brought her global recognition.
First of all, I'm a social facility manager aside my journalism work. So here we work with homeless people, migrants and refugees. So I'm basically responsible for the office and communication organizing. I do consultations for refugees and migrants and homeless people to find them homes, to help them with their residence permit, guide them to lawyers. I do translation, Mandinka, English, Wall of German, and so on. So I do all of this, and we give them tea, coffee outside. During this Ramadan, I had a project like whole month where we are on the street every day. We give them food to break their fast because, mind you, we have tons of Gambians where I work.
She explained the role of her weekly webinar on the quality of lives of Africans in the diaspora.
I think this has to do with the weekly or monthly webinar that I do with the African women in trade, because they're actually into investment, they're actually into economy, to making the African economy stronger. They deal a lot with the Afka tech and all this African economy stuff you could think of. These are super duper exciting women, so energetic, and women that are there that house like do a lot of exchange programs, mentorship, workshops, and all that. So my engagement with them on this side is by interviewing them, giving them voice, making sure that the public know about what they do, making their voices heard. So I think it has to do with through the economy, aside my other activities.
Nima is the founder and host of the Nima's Bantaba TV show in Germany and English languages that she uses to enlighten migrants and refugees across the globe. She is active as a woman and refugee rights activist through public speaking, training, and program development with various organizations in Germany. Khadijatu Seka, iAfrica News.
From the reports by Khadijatu Seka, moving on, the launching of Airline Gambia, a platform by MOPSI, Africa TV went to Nusra Senior Secondary School to ask students about how convenient the platform is. As necessary reports, most of the students said they have little or no idea about Airline Gambia, which they describe as inappropriate.
The Airline Gambia platform is purposely meant for students to have the opportunity to learn anywhere at any time. However, students at the Nusrat Senior Secondary School expressed concern over lack of knowledge about the platform. According to these students, the Ministry of Education should have talked to the students by raising awareness about the initiative, including how it should be used.
Well, I first of all have to talk on the fact that we should have been enlightened about this, because like me, I'm just hearing of it for the first time. And before such an initiative is to be implemented, students are supposed to be aware of it so that by the time it is implemented or by the time it has been launched, students will be prepared to use it. But right now, most of us are not aware. But I think that we should be enlightened more, and they should also use the social media, since a lot of students are using mobile phones now, so they can use social media on WhatsApp status so that people can be aware of it, and then so that everyone can benefit. And I believe if this is done, a lot of us will be able to benefit from it. And I believe it is one step to take education to its peak in the Gambia.
Whatever initiative they have to come up with, it has to do with students. So before coming up with any kind of initiative, I think the government, they need to come and then enlighten the students, let them be more oriented about it. Then from there, they can go ahead with it. Because you cannot just launch something without the people that it is going to impact have not even heard anything about it. So I think the government is a good initiative, to be honest, but like they need to make sure the students are put in the picture. Because if you look at it, not everybody can afford what online. Sometimes we know our backgrounds are not the same. So if any form of initiative the government want to come up with, they have to make sure the students are put in the picture, how to go about it. Those that may not have access to it, how are they going to make sure they also have access to it? I think that is the best, yeah, to be honest.
Despite the inclusion of rural students in the island Gambia, Jainaba Jamhe is with the belief that not all students will benefit from the initiative.
They should have done that before the inauguration, I guess. Because for us, people like me, we only saw it on TV, on news. It was being shown out there. We know nothing about it. So it's just like something that they have inaugurated for the student, but the students know nothing about it. It's just for themselves. And maybe, let's say, when they are ready, they go around to schools, but I'm 100% sure that not all students are going to benefit from this.
Island Gambia, an online learning platform, was launched by the Education Ministry to serve a resource center for both students and teachers across the country. According to MOPSI, 24 schools were targeted in the country, and teachers who are part of the initiative were trained. The move is geared towards helping students to recover from the time loss caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy Say.
From there, we move to Israel, where over 300 people have been injured by police stormed the Al-Aqsa mosque in Jerusalem on Monday and attacked Palestinians who were on guard to prevent possible raids. Now, in a statement, the Palestinian Red Crescent said 228 people were taken by hospitals for treatment, with 7 of them being in critical condition. And in late Sunday night, dozens of people were also injured after clashes between Palestinian worshippers and Israel police inside a Jerusalem holy site. During the clashes near the old city of Jerusalem, Israel police threw stone grenades, used water cannons, and deployed mounted police to disperse the Palestinian protesters, some of whom burned down road barricades. The Sunday night clash caused injuries to at least 25 people, while police arrested 23 others. This follows days of simmering unrest over possible eviction of Palestinians from land claimed by Jewish settlers.
We're coming here to protest because of the 3 families that are being ethnically cleansed from their neighborhood. Their houses are being taken away and given to settlers. We're just here to show support for these families.
In 1956, 28 refugee families settled in the Sheikh Zara neighborhood in East Jerusalem after the Jordanian government and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees in the Near East reached an agreement to construct homes for them. East Jerusalem was then under the administration of Jordan, since from there, before an Israel district court gave the ruling that several Palestinian homes in the Sheikh Zara neighborhood legally belonged to Jewish families earlier this year.
My father took the house from the Jordanian in 1956. There is agreement between Jordanian and UNRWA. Jordanian give the land, and the UNRWA built a 28 house for 28 refugee family. We, from that year, 1956, live here until now.
Thousands of Palestinians staged protests inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex, located in the old city of Jerusalem. After performing the dawn prayers early Monday morning, the Palestinians then stayed there to guard the mosque against raids by extremist Jews, setting up barricades at some points of Haram al-Sharif, the main building of Al-Aqsa. They chanted slogans for the mosque and said they would not leave there. Israel police then raided the mosque and used tear gas, rubber bullets, and stun grenades in clashes with the Palestinians, who responded by throwing stones. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society said several hundreds of Palestinians have been injured in the conflict in the past few days. At present, 38 Palestinian families are living in neighborhood, of which 4 face imminent eviction and 3 are expected to be removed in August. For African News, Sohna Tunkara. Still on the global front, a South African entrepreneur has joined the fray to help his country to overcome the challenges of waste management. Now, the country's Environmental Affairs Department said most of the plastics found in the ocean and waterways are due to littering, thereby negatively impacting the environment. Despite the challenges, the businessman has been recognized for his efforts to protect his community from environmental hazards. More of that in this report.
According to the United Nations, around the world, people buy about 1 million bottles per minute. Half of them end up in the landfills and the ocean. The Environmental Affairs Department asserts that much of the plastic waste in the country's oceans, rivers and waterways is due to littering, inadequate waste management and overflowing landfills. But a number of South Africans are now attempting to be part of the solution. Mandle Nkosi is one of them. He started a small entity called Man Recycling.
My biggest concern is the waste that goes to the marine and get burned. It damages our environment, the ozone layer, the marine. The climate change is so affected by the failure to recycle, especially in the rural areas. That's why I'm saying people must recognize this is a huge opportunity for us to venture into a new business.
While always concerned about plastic waste in his community, desperation led him to this industry.
It was a matter of bringing bread on the table for my family. I was really desperate because I lost my job. I was not working at the time. I started slowly and small, but eventually grew to what it is today. I was towing a trolley from the street, and I managed to save very well, some good savings.
Then a short while later, his local municipality recognized his efforts and gave him access to many areas where he could pick up large amounts of waste. These days, Man Recycling operates from a secure building and collects over 18 tons of plastic waste a month. This plastic waste is then turned into usable products.
This is a storage site. It's like a warehouse. All this stuff that comes from this different transfer station comes here for sorting and the packaging so that we can send it to the correct mills. We collect a number of different products, like the plastics. As you know, plastics are different. The beverage container plastics is called the PET. Plastics, we collect that and we sort it, package it according to the color. The clear ones one side, the green ones one side, the brown ones one side. We also deal with the HDPE, they call it HDPE. It is the plastic that contains most of the time the milk, amasi, your jik, your handy, all that kind of stuff. You know, the plastics are totally different.
Nkosi has recently been awarded a certificate from PET Recycling Company, or PETCO, in recognition of his work. PETCO supports recyclers with community programs, educational material, and awareness programs on recycling.
Yeah, you can just carry on now.
From that, coming back home, the Gambia Police Force has announced on Monday that at least 681 people have been arrested since launching the Operation Zero Crime campaign. The operations that took place between April 2nd and May 1st, 2021, showed the arrest of some people who were released after they were not found connected to any crime.
Except for checkpoints and traffic police, there is limited visibility of police presence in the Greater Banjul area and its surroundings. The Gambia 2020 Crime and Safety Report appeared to show that police do not have the ability to respond quickly to crises because of inadequate equipment and resources, such as radios and vehicles, and most of them are not armed. As a reactionary force, Gambian police force cannot maintain large-scale or long-term proactive operations. The property crime rate such as vandalism and theft is at 56.25, and the rate of violent crimes such as assault and armed robbery is at 32.81. In response to increasing crime rates, the police force deployed a joint security high-visibility patrols, targeting criminal hubs within the Greater Banjul area and the West Coast areas. The campaign dubbed Operation Zero Crime is aimed to tackling crime and criminal activities and to dismantle all criminal hideouts. According to the police, since the commencement of the said operations, a total number of 681 people were arrested at various criminal hideouts within Banjul, Kanifing, and West Coast regions. The operations that took place between April 2nd and May 1st, 2021 show the release of 304 people after they were not found connected to any crime. While 119 people were found to be undocumented immigrants, 153 people were found with suspected drugs and subsequently handed over to the Drug Law Enforcement Agency for further investigations. 105 people were charged with various offenses, granting from going armed in public and possession of suspected stolen properties to robbery and escape from lawful custody. The police high command assured the public that the conduct of the security personnel shall be strictly within the confines of the law. The police instituted a strong inspectorate unit to regularly supervise and monitor the activities of security personnel in a bid to ensure the protection of the fundamental human rights and the respect of rule of law. Khadija Seka, iAfrica News.
From the report by Khadija Seka, we'll go with a short commercial break and more news to come on The World Today. Stay tuned.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put in to constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is the World Today newscast here on Africa TV. And now to our remaining stories, rather. Senegalese state-owned carrier Air Senegal has announced plans to launch flights to the United States later this year. The new bi-weekly flights that will be launched in September will offer non-stop service from Dakar Blaise Diagne International Airport to New York F. Kennedy Airport, from where the flights will connect into Washington Dulles. We have more of that in this report.
Air Senegal will be the only African carrier to offer direct flights between Senegal and the U.S. Delta flights between New York and Dakar. According to the airline, the new service would also offer connections to and from destinations including Ziguinchor, Cap Skirring, Banjul, Conakry, Casablanca, plus half other cities on the continent. When it starts the new operation, Air Shenegal will be the only African airline to operate direct flights from Senegal to the U.S. and will use Airbus A330-900 neo, which the company received in 2019. The aircraft, which is said to be configured in a 3-class setup, offering 32 sets in business class, 21 in premium economy, and over 200 in economy. Along with the A330 fleet, operates 2 Airbus 321-2A319 and 272-0600. In February 2020, Air Senegal announced a new route between Dakar and London, Stansted. The service had been due to start in June 2020 but was postponed due to COVID-19 and has yet to launch. For iAfrica News, Binta Jallo.
The impact of the global health crisis has made life challenging for people with disability in Nigeria. There have been ongoing people that were forced to stay at home during the pandemic, while must depend on help when moving around. As we featured in this report, a young Nigerian amputee narrates her experience during the lockdown, despite initiating her own business to boost income.
This is 35-year-old Aveshima Akiger. At first glance, one can't tell she's a person with a disability. Young and out of school in 2003, Aveshima lost one of her limbs in a road accident. Life's been difficult as an amputee, and for many like her, it's been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic.
The outbreak of this COVID has really been a challenge because going out of your comfort zone has been limited. At a time that it was a total lockdown, they were not going out. So, when you have a disability, sometimes you just need to go out and mingle with people and have this sense of belonging. But when there was a lockdown, those people were not going out and they were always indoors. Life was really, really difficult.
Despite all odds, Aveshima is not giving in to self-pity. The English language graduate has perfected her catering skills and is making money from it. COVID-19 rocked the entire globe, halting activities and grounding economies. But for people with disabilities, it became harder to cope. And that's largely because many require help moving around, and that was inaccessible during the lockdown.
Persons with disabilities during the COVID-19, I will talk specifically about the deaf people. At first, you will sit at home and you'll be watching this news on TV, and then you will not see a sign language interpreter. They were not carried along. So they don't know if they needed to wear masks. They don't know if they needed to wear masks or not. They don't know if they needed to do social distancing or not because there were no people there to interpret for them to know what was happening.
Statistics from the International Disability Alliance show that an estimated 25 million people are living with disabilities in Nigeria. That's about 15% of the nation's population. Nigeria passed a law to protect persons with disabilities in 2019. But there's still much left to be done to close the exclusion gaps.
What disability needs is not sympathy but empathy. What should be done for persons with disabilities is an inclusive environment. When I mean inclusive, is both infrastructure, jobs, and everything.
Despite the difficulties brought about by COVID-19, Aveshima and many like her are adjusting by leveraging on internet and technology, as they hope that society gives them a better chance at life.
Nigeria, coming back home, commuters of the Senegal market have decried the move by drivers in the country to increase the transport fares as preparation of Eid al-Fitr are in high gear. The unsatisfied road users have also slammed the traffic congestion in the Senegal area, especially during the Korite preparation. Binta Fati reports.
The unlawful increment of fares has been ongoing for a long time, with the Korite preparations making matters worse as more people come to the open markets to buy articles for the Eid. Fatmata Keita, a native of New Yundum, says he pays almost $200 to get home.
Transportation in the Gambia here is too critical. Today we want to pay $200 is almost when coming from Yundum to Serekunda. Serekunda to Yundum, you pay about $75 or so. This is simply because vehicles don't really want to reach their various destinations. They will charge you money. This is how they will do this. An apprentice will come and tell you, I'm going to Latrikunda, charge you. Latrikunda, Tabokoto, they will charge you. Tabokoto, Serekunda, and some of them, they will not even reach the garage. This is very sad indeed. I think the government should look into this.
Ibrahima Jaju, a native of Casamance, Senegal, is of the view that the drivers take advantage of the festive period to increase fares, which he strongly condemns.
I came here, but honest to God, the fare is kind of expensive. From here to Brikama, they are charging you $50. You know that is expensive. They are taking advantage of the feast, I can say, to increase the fares, and that is wrong. Normally, they should help people because of the fasting. There are too many expenses, there is no money, and they know that the coronavirus affects lives. They should leave this and reason. Let them reduce the fares and help people, for God's sake. Here, life is so expensive.
While the public described the actions of drivers as unjustifiable, Asanjan, a driver from Medina Serimas, blamed the situation on the traffic and poor roads in the country, calling on the government to help reconstruct the roads for the benefit of all.
So problem bi buñ ko fogg ne ci driver la. Driver bi mu ngay xol nan la mëna def nit ñi mënu ñoo ñaka dem.
Let's not think the problem is the drivers alone. People will have to travel, and the drivers cannot afford not walking. The drivers will see how he can walk and earn profit and give something to the owner of the vehicle, and for the vehicle to last longer. For instance, if you were going to Brikama in the past, if you were to spend 1 hour, now you will be spending 1 hour 30 minutes or 2 hours. So the driver will be thinking of all this to ensure that he has profit. Usually, customers will only see it as just going, but no matter how difficult it may be, the driver has no right for you to alight. He will have to take you to the agreed destination because you are paying him if he were using 1 liter of fuel. He might be using 3 liters. The government should help us with roads. That is the only problem. If we don't have another highway, let them reconstruct the ones in town so that we can walk fast and our vehicles will not be spoiled.
Increment of fares by drivers, supposedly due to the poor roads leading up to traffic congestions, force commuters to pay multiple fares or risk being stranded on the streets or garages for hours without a vehicle. For Africa TV News, I am Pinta Fati.
That was all for the World Today newscast with me, Sohna Tunkara. You can catch up with Mariama Cham on Gambia 24 at 2000 hours for more national stories. Thanks for watching. Have a nice evening.